Hi everyone, it's Beth with the Live Good, Live Well podcast. This is episode 6, and thank you for listening. Today I want to talk about something very obvious and simple, which is my brand, Live Good, Live Well. I get that it's not completely grammatically correct, and that's okay. Life is not always perfect, is it? It started off as a tagline in my blogs, and then my editor and very good friend Melissa Drake made a comment. She does I don't know if she still does this or not. She might not have time for it anymore. She's quite busy. She would do the red pen treatment where she would literally print out our writings and use a red pen, and I don't have one in front of me, but we'll use this pen as an example. So she would mark up the pages in red ink just like we used to get in school from our teachers, and people love it because it's very nostalgic and it's very familiar. So at the end of a few blogs, I would put this, and then she would write, "Really like this." So I thought, that's my brand. I hadn't really fully decided on one yet, and so it just felt right. And so I filed for my business license, and I've got the tattoo of my logo on my arm, so that's it. And it pretty much sums up how I live my life. I would like to make the best of everything. Maybe that's the Sagittarius in my moon and ascendant signs, if we want to get real into astrology for a minute. It just felt right, and it felt good, and it was something that I could convey to other people quite easily. I mean, it's 4 words. 2 repeat themselves, 2 are very common, and it conveys an upward trajectory. So moving from something good to something great, or from something really hard to something really amazing. And so that's it. So I want to talk about a little bit of how I've done that for myself. So I lived a very normal, what I would call a normal childhood. My parents were middle class working parents. They were very loving, amazing people. They divorced. I went through a bit of trauma that I don't think that they knew about even. I hope they don't anyways. And I was very awkward. I was, a tomboy. I knew that I liked girls from the age that I was like 2 years old, but there wasn't a word for it in the 80s that I knew of even, and when I went to kindergarten, I knew that I was different from the other girls in my class, and I knew that I wanted to play with the boys, but I didn't want a boyfriend like everybody else was having. And so I always carried this difference with me, and I just didn't have words for it. And so I internalized everything. That's when I learned to internalize everything. And I don't know if shy is the right word. I was a bit timid. I was very quiet, and I had a stutter for a while in my adolescence and teenage years. And that's something that I don't know if anybody knows. I mean, I don't know if it could be called a stutter, but I stumbled over my words. When I would work up the courage to get some words out, to say something to someone I normally didn't talk to, like my mom or my sister, I would just stumble, and it would sound like I was talking complete gibberish. And then the person would have to say, huh, and I would freeze, afraid to say the wrong thing again, not knowing what I just said, if it was even intelligible. And so communication was very, very challenging for me, verbally. So I've always kept journals, not daily, but I've kept them pretty. It looks like I have a mullet, but that's actually the blinds behind me. So writing has always been an outlet for me, and now I'm doing it not professionally, certainly, but more regularly, and as more of a hobby. Now, obviously, I have a podcast. I'm not afraid to talk to anyone, really. I worked through that thanks to my job in the corporate world. I had to get over those things really fast in order to be successful and to survive. And so other things, into my 20s, I just made some bad financial decisions like everybody else. I don't drink. I've never been a drinker. I've never smoked. I've never done any drugs. I don't even like taking over-the-counter medication. Coffee, turmeric, apple cider vinegar. I'm pretty I'll call it weird, but I don't consider it to be weird. I consider it to be very basic and very pre-1913, I think, when the medical colleges were taken over by the Rockefeller family. So very holistic. I think that a lot of things that we come down with, such as colds, I've got a little bit of a runny nose right now, and maybe you can hear it in my voice. Most diseases are, and ailments and things like that, are emotions, or related to our emotions or our mentality and our mindset and our attitude. We can debate that. We can Google it. We can research it. But I firmly believe that a lot of that stuff is, excuse me, absolutely true. And so I've learned that. When I was 16, I had a thyroid imbalance that was quite mysterious to find, because it doesn't always show up on blood tests. So I lost about 10 or 15 pounds, and I didn't have that to lose. I was very thin as a child. I got down to about 112 pounds, 110 or so, and I'm 5'9", so I'm not short, and I don't have the stature to, to have lost that much weight. Now I'm about 180, so that's about 20 or 30 pounds above where I should be comfortably and healthily, but so there's been about a 70-pound swing there, so to give folks that know me a bit of a reference. When I was 25, I had kidney stones, and that sucked. Let me tell you, that sucked a lot. It could have been a product of the thyroid imbalance from when I was a teenager and into my early 20s. I was on medication. I took daily medication, Levothyroid, for a few years, and I got really frustrated because I'm very curious and want to know why. I'm like a 3-year-old when it comes to that. I want to know why something happens, what we can do about it, and how we can prevent it from happening again. I don't want to be told to take a pill every day for the rest of your life and hope for the best. That doesn't sit well with me, and I didn't accept that. So I would go to an endocrinologist every 6 months for a regular checkup. We would do blood work, we'd get it back. He would say, see you again in 6 months. And I would ask, why? How did this happen? What can I do to resolve this so I don't have to take a pill for the rest of my life? And he said, nothing, it just happens. And here's how the 3 hormones work that make up the thyroid hormone from the gland, but you just have to take the medicine. And that's the worst thing that you can tell somebody like me. So started kind of the internet was around back then, but it's not like it was now. I mean, this was in 2000 and 2001 to 2004 or 5, somewhere like that. So it wasn't really so prominent to do your own research online yet. So I started just trying to monitor what I was consuming a little bit more. I still drank a lot of sodas. I still ate a lot of junk food. I mean, I was a high school and college student living in a small town. I didn't know any better. I didn't know what organic was yet. I just didn't know, but I knew that something was off and that something had to change. So I started being more aware of what I put on my body as much as I could back then without knowing very much still. As the internet became more prominent, Facebook, I started curating. So this was a time where we were on MySpace, and it was mainly for entertainment, not really for education. I use Facebook largely for business connections and education. I can't put a value on what I've learned from Facebook since I first joined in October of 2005, whenever that was. Whenever I first joined. I joined when you still had to have a .edu address. And so I curate my newsfeed quite religiously. I don't want to see politics. I don't care to see sports. I don't really care what most people are doing if they're not posting something that's good for me. I treat it like mind food. And I like memes, and I participate in the humor side of it, but I don't want to just look at junk all day. It's like eating junk food out of a machine. Like, I would rather spend my time reading something that's good for me, that either I'm going to learn something that's going to benefit me, or I'm going to learn something that's going to benefit somebody else. So I spend a lot of time curating what comes into my mind, and that can go into the people that are around me as well, which is not many on a day-to-day basis. If I leave my house and leave my family, our dogs, our kid, my partner, Tosca, it's got to be for a really good reason. It's to go to work. It's to go to a networking event that I've really thought hard about that's going to benefit us. It's to go on a trip that's, again, I've only gone on 2 trips since I've met her, so I take this quite seriously. It's to go to Whole Foods to get us some food. It's very intentional. It's highly intentional to spend time away from my home and away from my loves. So I treat everything else just the same. I don't eat a lot of junk food. It's been hard lately because holidays are starting and things like that, and also ice cream. But all of this has come, and I'm pretty annoying about it to people that don't, even to Tosca that is used to me. We're going through some other things that we need to cut out plastic and styrofoam and artificial sweeteners and sugar and probably some gluten and non-organic foods and what we're putting on our bodies in the shower. And, it's coming around again where we need to really focus on what we're consuming, both internally, both ingesting, and externally on our skin, because that matters just as much. I stopped using public soap in public restrooms about 10 or 12 years ago. This was part of my thyroid thing. I don't take medication anymore. I haven't in about a decade. And that's because I was able to make some lifestyle changes and consumption changes. I don't really drink sodas that much anymore. I used to drink them all the time because that's what you do if you don't know any better. But when you know better, you do better, typically. Thank you, Oprah. And I went through a challenge with a coworker at the time when I worked at the bank for my first job. We sat beside each other for 4 or 5 years, I think. And he liked Dr. Pepper. I liked Dr. Pepper. He liked sweet tea. I liked sweet tea. And so we would go through these hills and valleys where he would try to stop drinking Dr. Pepper, but then he would just drink a ton of sweet tea. So anyway, we had a challenge where we couldn't drink either one, and it lasted for 6 months. I broke my soda habit and my sweet tea habit with that because I wasn't going to lose, and he wasn't going to lose. And so that really allowed me the benefit of stopping something that was not good for me. And now it's by choice and not by habit. So there are some times where I really want a soda, and so I have one. But it's not a case of if I have one, I'm going to have one again tomorrow, and then it doesn't restart the habit. It's just a one-time choice, and it's very intentional. If I'm craving something like that, I'll let myself crave it for about 2 weeks. So if I'm craving chocolate chip cookies or brownies or a soda or something like that, I've been craving it for 2 weeks when it comes out of my mouth and says that I want this. So I don't think of these things on a whim. I'm not just like, I want some brownies, let's have some brownies. It's been brewing for 2 weeks and it's still there. So by that point in time, I will let myself have it and I'll enjoy the hell out of it. But I don't have those things typically out of habit. If we have stuff in the house, it makes it really hard because then it's just there. Like my mom got me some chocolate chip and peanut and pecan cookies. She brought them for Thanksgiving because she knows that I love them. And I just finished the box last night by myself. And oh God, I love them. But again, like I ate them because they're here and I love them. But I don't buy that stuff regularly for us. I don't buy junk food for us for sure. Tosca probably hates when I go grocery shopping because I don't get anything fun. And having a kid is really hard because, of course, sugary stuff is what they want. And it's really hard on him. It gives him little tummy digestive issues when he has too much sugar. And it's really hard to grasp, at 9 years old. He can't have a ton of lemonade and a ton of ice cream. But what is he supposed to drink? What can kids drink? Or even us, like what tastes good? Because water, I love water. I've learned to love it because of the benefits of it. The same with turmeric and some other things. Like, I eat them for health reasons because the taste is sort of irrelevant if I know that the benefit is far exceeding that. But for somebody that's not of that very stubborn mindset, it's hard to do. And so what to drink has been the topic for us lately. My coffee, I use creamer. I love heavy cream. Like, that is my go-to. If I have heavy cream available, I love it in my coffee, but it's not good sustainable source of fat, especially if it's, pasteurized and non-organic. So half and half and flavored creamers are what I'm using now, and I'm seeking out I feel like this is one of the last sort of like mainstream grocery store sort of things that I need to sort out. And so yesterday I was watching a video on how to make nut milk, so cashew and almond milk, and it looks pretty easy. I mean, I haven't done it before, but why not? Like, looks pretty simple. I've used I don't care for almond milk, it's a bit nutty. I've used hemp milk and oat milk previously. They're both a little bit thin, so I'm looking for something that's a bit creamier and thicker for my daily coffee. And I don't want to give up coffee. I don't feel like that's the right thing to do for me. It's got antioxidants, it's got some other things in there that are very healthy and beneficial for us, and I don't feel like it's a problem for me. One day when it is, then I'll switch to something else, tea or mushroom coffee or something like that. But for now, I don't feel like that's a problem. So I've gone through these kind of health awareness checks, right? Like, my body's like, hey, this is wrong. We need to do something different. So thyroid thing. Yep. Got that mostly under control. I know the triggers. I know the environmental triggers. Antibacterial soaps and things with a lot of alcohol and unnatural chemicals are not good for our body. Anything that you put on your skin is the same as eating it. So just keep that in mind the next time you go to buy lotion or makeup or shampoo or conditioner or face cleaner, moisturizer, any of these things that were toenail nail polish, any of these things that we're putting on our body. Our skin is very, very permeable. It protects us, but we also have to protect it. So then I went through the kidney stones, and I wasn't drinking enough water, essentially. And so now I drink a lot of water, because I would rather drink a lot of water each day, whether I want to or not, than never have that sort of pain again. It was indescribable. I've not gone through childbirth, but it's been compared to childbirth, and it was miserable, and it was so foreign. And surprising. There weren't any warning signs, at least that I can remember or that I knew of at the time. And so if you've ever had kidney stones, you know the type of pain. If you have gone through childbirth, then you obviously know the most painful thing. But so that was my wake-up call at 25 when I needed to make some more adjustments. And so I did. I drink a lot of water. Almost every day. The exceptions are if I'm traveling, it's hard. Travel days, because on airplanes and airport water, public water, and I really don't like drinking bottled water. I don't know what's in them. I don't know the quality of it. Tap water is much more regulated. It's regulated at a municipality level. That's what my dad actually does and has done his whole life. There's a documentary called Tapped, the EPA. They covered one person at the EPA. It's half of their responsibility to monitor the quality of bottled water. And why would we pay 3,000 times the cost of something to have it in a plastic bottle that we're going to throw away once? I get that it's convenient sometimes, and if we're on a road trip and we don't have a reusable bottle or something like that. I feel like I have a dog hair on my face. We have 3 dogs, so there's always dog hair on everything. If we don't have a reusable bottle, I get it. Like, sometimes it makes sense. But to buy cases of this unregulated quality, cheap water when we can get something better from the tap, I don't understand the point of it. And I get that it's marketing and the bottle, whatever. We have some glass jugs. One is, I think it's 2 gallons. It sits just behind the sink. And we have some charcoal filters in it. We have a glass gallon jug in their fridge for Tosca. She likes her water cold. I prefer mine room temperature. I don't really care if it's cold or not. I don't like ice generally unless it's in tea. It just gets in the way and waters stuff down. And so we drink mostly charcoal filtered water. And I mean, it's that simple. It's aside from distilled water, which doesn't really taste anything because it's literally just H2O. There are no minerals or anything in there for flavor to give it taste. It's pretty good. Alkaline water would be amazing, and sometimes I'll make that with just lemons. You don't squeeze the lemons. You just get a fresh lemon and wash the outside off, of any like residue or anything like that, any grimy fingerprints that somebody's touched in the store, and put it in the water, and it changes the pH of it and helps balance the pH in our body, and that's very important for a lot of health reasons. So that's something that's very easy and very inexpensive to do. We don't have to buy alkaline water in plastic bottles. We can just make our own with lemons or another food of your choice. You have to do some research and find out what other fruits or vegetables. Infused water is essentially what we're going for here. What we eat. So Live Good, Live Well talks, I cover I'm a life coach, so I can cover the entire gamut of life, right? Right now we're focused on consumption. So eating organic is not a fad. We should call it food. And what we know is conventional food is what's been genetically modified or sprayed with pesticides or herbicides or any of these other poisons that can kill an insect on contact. Why would we want to eat something that can kill an insect? What's it going to do to our bodies and our stomachs and our gut-brain connection and our health and our body? And why would we want to put that in our mouth, in our body? I'm curious, why we've been so conditioned to think that that's okay. And it's because Monsanto has genetically engineered these foods. If you go to a grocery store and look at the inner, so the outer perimeter is produce, meats, maybe some spices depending on what your grocery store layout is, milk, eggs, ice cream, maybe some bread, etc. But it's mostly like staple sort of foods. If you go to the interim, there might be a few aisles of frozen foods. There might be some household aisles. And then it's aisles of processed corn. Look at the row of cookies, the rows of chips, the rows of breakfast pastries and snacks. And it's processed corn with added sugar or high fructose corn syrup. Why do we spend so much money on those things? I prefer Whole Foods because you can get more organic stuff there than anywhere, even though they're moving into some more conventional stuff. So I buy pretty much the same thing every time I can share my grocery shopping list. Again, it probably drives Tosca and Trevor crazy because I don't get anything that's fun. I don't buy Cheetos. I don't buy Oreos really unless we're making something special for a holiday. I like to make my own chocolate in like a homemade Reese's peanut butter cup, which has been a challenge because Tosca is allergic to coconut oil, so I've had to refigure out what oil will work in its place, and that's hard because flaxseed oil tastes like fish. So again, just be aware of what's going in and on your body. Sodas are one of the worst things for so many reasons that we can consume. High fructose corn syrup, aspartame, all of the other chemicals. I was once on the elevator a couple months ago, maybe last month or the month before, with a guy that used to work for Coca-Cola delivering the bottles of the huge, kegs of the syrup to bars and restaurants, and he said they only have about a 3-month shelf life, and after that they're toxic poison. And so what happens before that? Because at the 3-month mark it just can't magically flip a switch and be poisonous. What's happening to the process to get there? And so that was just another major wake-up call that shouldn't be in our body, especially on an everyday basis. There are other colas in the store. They're quite expensive. They're about $6 or $7 for a 4 or 6 pack, but they're made with pure cane sugar, and there's like 4 ingredients, and that's a much better alternative. Kombucha is an amazing alternative. I need to start a batch, actually. I'll probably do that in the next couple of days. Very good for our gut health. You might have some side effects, I would call, from it. But it's a very bacteria full drink alternative to sodas. If you need that carbonation, if you need something with flavor, because I often hear Tosca say, I want something that tastes like, I want something to drink that tastes like something, meaning she wants something with like a kick or a punch that's not water. And I crave that sometimes too. So we go for sweet tea or lemonade, trying to break the soda habit with her for sure. So outside of consumption and our health related to that, emotional health, if you're in a situation where you're in a challenging relationship and you don't know how to get out of it, let's talk, okay? I've been in those and I've gotten out of them, obviously okay, and that's something that's very near and dear to my heart to help other people with. If you're in a situation that, say you're in a relationship with somebody and you've been married for 20 years and you know that they're not the person for you, and it's a little bit unhealthy, but also it just is, and you're just going through your everyday, like just trying to make it, just trying to make it to bed, like to go to sleep at night, just trying to make it through to the weekend. Just, you're just like struggling along. Let's talk for real, because I would love to help you figure out what's going on, if it's truly the relationship that's hard, or if it's if there's another factor, if it's communication within the relationship and not the actual relationship itself, if it's you're unhappy with your job, you're unhappy with how you feel in your body, or if that relationship has expired. A lot of what I have learned about myself in the last, we'll call it my adulthood, last 12 to 14 years, is to not stay in something that doesn't feel good. If it's a job, if it's a relationship, if it's a house, if it's an apartment, like if it doesn't feel good, figure out your plan to get out of it and into something that does. Life is way too precious and short, and whatever adjective you want to insert here, to be miserable. If you're in a career, say you're a teacher, or you're working in a corporate job and you absolutely hate it and you hate to go to work each day, why are you still doing that? Is it for the money? Because you can do other things for money, probably more money and a lot more happiness. Is it because that's all you know? Well, you can know something else. You learned how to do that, so you can learn how to do something else. Change is scary, I get all of that, but don't do something just for the sake of, because you've been doing it. Like, do something different and probably find yourself and find some happiness and find like your people, and branch out into the world. There's so much out there for so many people that we just have to go do it and get it and enjoy it. Career. If you're unhappy in your career specifically, we'll leave relationships there for a minute. If you're specifically unhappy in your career, so say that you work in a call center and you have to be, I'm pulling from my own experience here of when I was 22 actually. It was one of my first jobs out of college. I worked in a call center for a mortgage company and I hated it. It was not for me. I worked there for about 4 months, and it was just a situation where you had to be in your desk at a certain time, and you had to get 40 hours a week. If you got more or less, you would get in trouble. You had to make a certain number of phone calls a day, and all the way up to the vice president would listen to everybody's phone calls. Like, what does a vice president have? How does he have that much time to listen to calls? And they would just flip people over. They would hire like 20 or 30 people at a time every few weeks and then flip them over and flip them over. God, it was miserable. They didn't value, like, call centers, I'm sure there are some good ones, but oh man, I don't wish that upon anyone. I'm sure they're good jobs for some people and good stepping stones, but if you work in a call center or similar job, whatever your job is, and you hate it, figure out something else. Use it as the stepping stone that it is, not a resting place, and move on. I was a mall cop and worked at Target for a few months in 2010, in the summer of 2010 when I was in Maryland. And again, it was a stepping stone. I did it long enough to make enough money to move back to Texas. And I value the relationships that I made at those places, and I'm very appreciative of having those jobs, but they weren't like who I am or what I am capable of. They just provided a service for a few months to make a few bucks to get back home to where I am now. So if you're in a job or a career or a situation like that where you absolutely hate it, regardless of how much money you're making, whether you're making minimum wage, $15 an hour, $30,000 an hour, if you hate it, let's talk and let's get that sorted out, okay? Because we shouldn't be unhappy. You know, like, happiness is just on the other side of a decision. And sometimes it's just deciding to be happy. Sometimes it's deciding to do something different. Sometimes it's deciding to do something that you never thought you could do, but it's time to do it, okay? Today, actually, is the 1-year anniversary of when Tosca first messaged me on OkCupid. Before that, I was of the mindset, I had just kind of settled into, I was going to be okay being single for as long as I needed to be, because I didn't want to go through what I'd been through before in previous relationships. I didn't want to repeat the past of a mediocre or unhealthy or unhappy relationship just for the sake of being in a relationship. I wanted to be with someone that got me, that understood me, that loved me, that had similar goals that I did and a similar lifestyle and similar values, and that I could laugh with. Tosca and I will laugh like hyenas like every night for like 2 hours after we put Trevor to bed. At nothing. Like, we'll just start laughing because like there's a funny meme, and then I'll say something stupid, and then we'll just laugh for like 2 hours, and that feels so good because like, I mean, it releases all these chemicals and endorphins and hormones and things that, God, it just, find somebody that you can laugh with. Every time that we had a conversation this morning before we got up, and I asked her what is her favorite thing about us, and it's been the same every time I've asked her since we've met, and it's how much we laugh together. And she's sick with bronchitis right now, and so it hurts, and it's a bit uncomfortable for her to laugh a lot, but it's still her answer. And we've still been, it's hard to not laugh together at some things. And so if you're not laughing every day, I challenge you to read BuzzFeed or People of Tumblr or outlet of your choice. Watch a Netflix documentary with Kevin Hart or anybody that you find, Steve Harvey, anybody that you find funny, and laugh by yourself. Smile at yourself in the mirror. Just find some happiness. Start small or big, and go from there. So that's essentially what my brand is about. It's about going from a place of unhappiness or unhealthiness or mediocrity or complacency to a place of happiness and health and nutrition and mental health, good emotional stamina and things like that. Things don't really get me down, and I think it's because I practice Stoicism. And if you don't know about Stoicism, check out Tim Ferriss or Ryan Holiday or Seneca, the origin of that, or talk to me about it. So I'll do things quite small by comparison to Tim Ferriss, or some of the other guys that have been doing this for longer and a bit bolder about it. So some mornings I will get into the shower before the water is warm, and I'll stand in the cold water. The other day it was something simple like I have a leather necklace, not this one, but a leather necklace that's really itchy, and I wore it all day because I wanted to give myself kind of that base, like I can do this, like it's not a big deal, it's just uncomfortable, right? Other folks might wear really uncomfortable clothes for a while. One of Tim Ferriss's mentors, Kevin Kelly, I believe his name is, will sleep outside for a week in the cold, just to endure it, because nothing else that you do will be that hard. And if you can endure that, then you can do anything, right? So Stoicism is pretty cool in those regards. It'll kind of build your mental toughness and your emotional durability. If you want to learn to cook, I would love to teach people the basics. Again, the basics. I'm not a fancy cook, but I can cook some really good stuff that's very simple and easy to make a lot of things from. Basically a chicken or a beef and vegetables. It's kind of my go-to in a lot of different varieties. If you're in a situation that I have not talked about and you're like, I want something different, please reach out. You can find me online, livegoodlivewell.com. I'm on Instagram, livegoodlivewell. I'm on Facebook under the same name, Live Good Live Well. And my email address is beth@livegoodlivewell.com. Again, this was podcast, episode 6. And I greatly appreciate you joining and listening, and hope that you got something out of this today.